How are you today? I got my roads graded. They're not perfect yet, but at least I can drive up the hill. It kind of take 2 or 3 hits because you got to get the angling right. And like, if you keep, it's like Groundhog Day. It's like madness where you keep going over the same thing, and you never get a different result. And so, with a road, when you're trying to level it with gravel, you probably got let's say 5 to 6 runs, and that's it. Walk away. Whatever you've got, leave it. And then what you might want to do is, and that's what I will do, I'll bring the grader blade over it, and I will recenter it, probably backblade it, and just accept it for what it is, and let it compact back down, and on we go with a spoonful of sugar. Anyway, I think you're going to like today's topic. It happens a little bit too often. It's going to be a bit too easy to freelance on this one. I just had a load of things pop up this afternoon in regards to it, and it just, I'm saying it's like the elephant in the room that needs to be spoken about, but it's a definite issue, and it has its own ramifications. And it's the topic of people that like to sit around, point the finger, and talk shit. And bullshit artists, But beyond bullshit artists, know-it-alls that don't have a clue. But beyond know-it-alls that don't have a clue, just look. I don't even want to go into the full depths of this one here to sort of grab it for what it is. You're going to grab it. You're going to see it. You're going to pick it. You're going to be like, yep. Anyway, so I don't claim to be. Oh, I love this cat. I bought a baby sling that should be turning up at some point so I can carry it. I don't proclaim to be anyone special. I do have gifts and I do have talents. And my gifts and talents were definitely for special people. And didn't realise how bloody special they were going to be. And I didn't realise where it was going to, land me in life. Anyway, so like the joys of being a modern day knight, serving someone with legitimate titles. We're not talking about this Scottish bullshit where they're selling off 1 foot of land so you can call it, like Lord Snoop Doggy Dog. I get that, but no, I'm talking titles. We're talking just the lords and the ladies, the landholders, and when they're playing the Game of Thrones upon what land they would like to acquire, typically there's reasonings behind it. Like, for example, the block that I'm sitting on is the most centralised point in all of Australian economics. I mean, it is what it is. And then all of the other properties that they've got also, the strategic acquisition based upon it doesn't just have, how do I say, positional value, but historic value and all these other things. And what I find interesting is, I'll give you a story of the lady. I love the lady. Yeah, it just, there's nothing quite like being a knight and having someone like that to serve and protect. And it's something that I've had to learn how to deal with because it's overwhelming, the love that you can feel for these people. Honest to goodness, it is. Anyway, so it's been a journey for her as well as it has been for me because I am quite proper, but I can be rough around the edges. Right? So I was quite eagerly rough cutting a part of her yard, and she comes out and she was just like, look, you better not whippersnip those. I was like, well, what's the greater story to this? And she goes, well, so in this country you've got like the Macquarie Bank, so you got Lachlan Macquarie, and she was like, so it was Lady Elizabeth Campbell, right? And she said, so those flowers were from Lady Elizabeth. And I was just about ready to whippersnip the whole lot because they look like weeds. And anyway, so Lady Elizabeth, who was she? The lady that Campbelltown was named after. And just, it's really fascinating, Hume, all these last names live or lived where I work. and with my profession, it's based upon serving all those last names, like the original colonizers. And you go into Canberra and there is a number of highways and suburbs, and so the city that where I work out up at Sydney is it's after the people that I work for, their last name sort of thing. So you wouldn't believe it that a lot of cities are named after the last name of the colonizers. Anyway, that is what it is. We're going back to first fleeters. So back to it. Lady Elizabeth. That was interesting. I was about to whippersnip those historic flowers. Isn't it interesting? I find it interesting that these lords were naming towns after these ladies because they were so gorgeous. Like, dead set, their demeanour, they're such beautiful women. Like, it's just, they're so proper. Their manners are so fantastic. They would never swear. They don't do anything wrong. They're just so morally upright. It's almost like they're the closest thing. They're more royal than what you would think royalty is. It's absolutely fascinating. Anyway, doesn't matter. So with that, because we're getting back to people sitting around pointing the finger talking shit, when you get an entitled one of these, they are the worst for it. And well, because they get to lord the old finger about, don't they? Lords and ladies. Anyway, we'll forget that one for now. Just so it's like climbing the ladder of life. So I do really, really big stuff, right? And we understand our positions. I understand, like, through operations, I am an operator. I am chief of operations, if you want to call it that. And with that, I, just bloody caretaker. That's it. Let's just call it that. And what I caretake, though, is really big, expensive things, like the captain of multiple ships, pump sites and bridges and roads and pivots and infrastructure and factory and stockyards and just stuff, right? And so the thing that blows your mind is and we're talking about, like, I'm not saying like the theory of relativity, but like, what is relative to what? I could bust my ass for 6 months on something, and the scope and level of what I've done, even though it seems like it's quite grand, for these guys, it was so they make the decision and we're going to turn that switch on. Fucking unreal, isn't it? Like, that's a hard one to grab. You could, so yeah, when you're dealing with that level, and there's no right or wrong answer, and essentially it's just, because they are the title holders of the land, and they are the elite, they are the wealthy, and for them, unless it's worth a few thousand a day, they're not thinking. And so, like, with these pump sites that I've been developing, with this pump site that I built, I mean, that's a bloody hefty power bill daily, plus you've got the pivots that have to run with it. Then you've got infrastructure repair if you don't work it properly, plus the filtration system that I've put in with it. And that's all going to work into a bigger picture where there is about a 5 kilometre long boundary fence going in that will have to be irrigated, and all the other stuff that's going to be automated, electric gates and security systems, whatever. With that, you'll bust your guts for 6 months, and all they want to know is, how do I turn it on? It's fascinating. Anyway, so are they sitting around pointing their finger talking shit? Look, no, just levels upon levels. Like, you've got the ocean, so, and you've got waves. They're the wave creators, and all these ships and everything else that float about It's as their, motherships do what it is their motherships do. Let's have a look at it from the front. Yeah. All any of us are ever doing is riding the waves of what these guys' ships make. That's all we are ever doing. Anyway, that is what it is. So it's just levels upon levels upon levels. They are profoundly big spirits, big people, and you want to talk about the wheel of samsara, like they are the gods of the physical world. They are just very heavyweight, very heavy duty. Their thinking isn't based upon, how can I say this? I've seen CEOs battle over a few measly dollars, but I had a flange, and I saw one of the wealthiest people I've ever met screw down on $3 over it to be able to get it cheaper. I was just like, I don't know. It's beyond I'm not saying no wonder they're rich. It's just they've got money consciousness. They know what to do with it. And unfortunately, if you want to say they've idolized it or whatever, they have just beyond filled the banks. It's called generational wealth, established wealth that has just gone from generation to generation to generation for hundreds of years. And I'm saying it's a bottomless pit, but when you're born into that, it comes with responsibility. And they're different people. And if you don't appreciate why they do what they do, you won't even be walking in the front door, sort of thing. Anyway, back to it. So people that sit around, point the finger and talk shit, you could say that the entitled, the ones with the titles, are guilty of this. But, they're writing checks whilst they're talking shit, let me tell you. So, in context, they're contributing in one way or another. So, that's not the problem there. And this isn't about being belittling. It's just pointing out an issue. All right? So, in regards to those who point the finger and talk shit, I observed it get called out for what it is the other day by my lady. And see, when I have issues, for example, I had a problem the other week, and to be honest with you, it was a national-based issue that could have closed a highway down. Dead set. And these are big problems, and you got to be a big thinker to see it for what it is. And I sat on it for 2 days, and I was just like, I am baffled because the problem's so big that I just haven't grown into the person that I need to be to see it yet, right? And so I give my lady a call, and she, 15 minutes, look, this is what you got to do. And I was just like, and it was just fucking something normal for them. And that's what I'm saying. You think you're an eagle, they are the albatrosses. They have just got, it's like a hindsight, an insight, an oversight. They are visionaries. They have been there. They have done that. They have experienced it. They know. They have power. They have wealth. They know how to think like the rich think because they are rich and they've always been that way. So that's how they, it's really something else to get up to the level of the rich and understand the way they think. Honest to goodness it is. Because it's next level stuff. And where they're at with next level stuff is because they're the title holders, the land holders, and essentially they're the ones that can dictate, voting and everything because of just, they are the ones that hold the land and that's where the developing and everything happens. Lord help me here, Holy Spirit, where are we going with this one? Title holders. That's it. Where their head is at, because it's what they've always done, is when they have a decision to make, they could have a national base infrastructure issue of some description where you've got state, local and national governments to have to deal with on particular matters. Obviously, because they've always had a lawyer in their ear, but their lawyers are, international, world-class, highly powered people that understand the letter of the law on the highest level. So when you ask, if you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the right answer. But in regards to getting an answer about a really big issue that you're not quite aware of, what you're tapping into when you're getting, see, this wasn't advice, this was just me making a decision based upon how to avoid some drama that would take place in about 5 years if I didn't deal with something appropriately. But anyway, I was baffled. I couldn't see the answer. Rang her up, 15 minutes, this is how you do it. Cool, calm, collected, couldn't care less. That was it. And I was just like, so I felt like I actually expanded again as a human just by asking that question and getting that understanding. And day by day in every way we're growing. And see, the fertilizer, the growth that I've gone through over these past couple of years, like who I was a few months ago is dead. Just my job, not so much like my job daily, but my life, I feel like Mr. Squiggle. I'm not the man from the moon, but I feel like Mr. Squiggle, where it's all upside down, upside down, upside down, and it's a very big faith-based walk. And see, God, will nudge me to find the right people to ask the right questions. And so when you got accountants and lawyers and lords and ladies and whatnot to ask the right questions to get answers for conundrums that you're dealing with, my life has pretty much just turned into looking for reasons to ask questions to be able to grow into the next level that I'm trying to become. And I could try and perform something and say, for example, it's wrapped up in red tape. I've only got to speak to one of the lawyers. And I'm not going to call it twisting the kaleidoscope. Is it different perspective? Is it understanding the law? Is it understanding time? Is it understanding what you can and can't get away with? Is it understanding jurisdiction? I think it's understanding the whole lot. But again, baffled conundrums, and here's a beauty with these baffled conundrums. I got red tape removed from a project that I'm going to be starting later on in this year. And anyway, this flood that just happened recently, which has, I can't believe it, washed out the main access point to get down to my pump site and my pivot paddocks. This has worked into my corner where the red tape that I had removed, what I had it removed for, I've got to get a bridge built. There is no option but to develop it now, because where I wanted to put this, or where the original infrastructure was put in place to actually get this one developed, the groundwork was done. It must go there now, which actually will make that place run better because it's flood-proof. So if it wasn't nature, if it wasn't the lawyers, it's just highly favoured on all levels. So when it's your destiny. That pump site was my destiny, but this bridge is my destiny. Crazy, isn't it? And we're not talking a small bridge either. We're talking like about 60 metres long, And I've got all the gear. That's what's crazy about it. Just gently, bit by bit, put it together nice, get all the framework and everything done. I don't really want to be tapping into anything there because it's all sandstone. It needs to be a portable Bailey-style bridge. And that's, the reason why it is what it is it needs to be suspended back up in the ground, like on the land, away from where I want to put the bridge, because these bloody floods, they raise up 15 odd metres. I don't need any of that bridge touching, any of that water touching my bridge. Anyway, so it's funny how God will ensure through many different angles what we are destined to do. And by doing what I'm going to do with that bridge, it will make the functioning of that property a literal green feedlot. Unreal. Probably will become, I'd hate to say it because it's very compact, but for the size of it, or at the moment, it is pumping out cows. It is a factory. It's a breeding factory. Honest to goodness. Anyway, so I'm not saying that was a tangent. That was all about, you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the right answers, but my growth phase over these past couple of years has been phenomenal because I've had really big questions to ask, and the people that I've asked had the answer, like it was set up inside of them to just go, here it is. But immediately you grow beyond that answer and you become something else. And I've had 100% strike rate with every question that I've asked, and I've got the right answer for, and everything's been successful. And like where we're at right now is just, the sky's the limit. Anyway, back to it. So, my lady had a meeting the other day, and the meeting that she had was with some people that I dealt with a matter with. It was exactly 12 months ago, actually. And what she presented to me as I was listening to what she had to say about what the meeting was about with these people, it took me, about 5 minutes of listening to what she was saying about what the conversation presented itself, and I summed it up quite quick. Now, she's a proper person, they're proper. I summed it up to her and I was like, it sounds like they were sitting around pointing the finger and talking shit. And so what I was saying, I present to her what is, genuinely the blunt truth in the matter, and she's like, well, that's actually exactly what it was. It was a waste of time. Yes. So I was like, now in regards to this, sitting around pointing the finger and talking shit, look, this has no way to be blocked, honest to goodness, because it's just stating a typical issue that has to be looked at some point, because it's the biggest problem in this country. What is it? Government workers. All right? Why is it that, especially now where there's floods, for example, that a government department can send 5 people that were probably sitting in an office, all sitting around pointing the finger, talking shit, down to a location to sit around, point the finger and talk shit, and then call a meeting so they can go and get their coffee and donuts and sit around and point the finger and talk shit, and then, inconsequently, not come up with a resolution, and let's say they were all on $100 an hour or something. Purely through them going, let's take a look at this. You might need a structural engineer or whatever else it is in regards to the matter that they were looking at. No need for one. We just had a flood. Just everything has its limits. Wouldn't happen if there wasn't a flood. Right? So, and in regards to that, I'll just give you like a bit of background, a matter that I dealt with last year. A bridge. There was a bridge that had been looked at for nearly 15 years. And the bridge that had been looked at for 15 years, there was 6 of these people, these engineers, sitting around an office, pointing the finger, talking shit. And they used to all get their coffee and their donuts and go down to that bridge and, I don't know, scratch their ass and sniff each other's farts and talk shit. And I don't know, maybe they were talking about what they were going to do later on, but we're going on for 15 years, and what they were saying is there needed to be a new bridge, right? And it's going to cost $500,000. And I didn't know that I was going to turn up within 15 minutes, see the answer, and then fix it in half a day. This is what happens, and they hate that. These people hate people like me, and I'll explain it to you in a bit. So this bridge, there was a dilemma where it needed to be widened to get machinery across it, and it already had a 40-ton capacity, but the machinery that needed to go across it was no more than a ton. It's just that it was wider by half a foot on either side of the bridge where you couldn't get the machinery across it, right? And they were just like, well, we're going to have to put it in the budget, or you're going to have to add the contributions, and we're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to get the bridge built. And I was just like, it just doesn't need to happen. I'm looking at there, like, it's got a 40-ton rating. It's got perfectly good foundations underneath it. There needs to be a common sense answer that rectifies this issue so that you don't need to be spending $500,000 on building a new bridge. Anyway, so I looked at it for what it was, and I was like, fuck. Why not put ramps down either side? Twist the kaleidoscope, hey? And what was the purpose to the ramps down either side? Well, because the I-beams, really big, thick, huge I-beams, 4 of them that were supporting this bridge, each one of them was probably got the ability to for 40 tons each, sort of thing. I was like, well, why don't we use those as braces? So I went back and put a template together, and mind you, it was millimeter perfect. Seems to happen. And I fitted this bracket up onto one of the I-beams to see, has the idea that I've got, is it going to work? Worked perfectly. So I went back to the workshop. I had all the steel, and I welded up enough brackets to be able to put a ramp system down either side of the bridge. And anyway, not only did it just rectify the issue with the bridge, I then resumed to put thick rubber matting over the bridge, and then it turned into the main stock bridge for the farm. Great. So not just for machinery, we've knocked all the issues over now. You can get all the machinery over. It's wide enough to deal with all those matters, but also it's good for stock. Fantastic. And all it costed was steel that was sitting there, my time, and welding rods and some grinding discs. But so I'm not saying this is about being doers. It's about like practicality and common sense. What am I saying? There is, let's say, bureaucracy. I've seen this in community groups, like back when I used to deal with the youth, that call together like the community leaders to have a meeting. But with the meeting, look, typically they'd end up with, what was it? Like a cardboard box. I think it was about a foot long by about 200 mil wide and about that deep, full of donuts and cakes. And so you got donuts and cakes, and you got the sandwiches. You've got to get the sandwiches too, and white bread. And then you got the thermos, the coffee urn. And so you can have tea or coffee. So these community meetings, it took me to turn up to one to figure it out. They're not looking for answers. They're looking for reasons to turn up somewhere and talk shit and eat coffee and donuts and cake. And saying they're shit kickers, but what they have figured out is a way to waste time because the position that they're employed in is that boring that they've got nothing to do. So they create meetings and gatherings and groups and different things where they have, do they have any idea or not? Look, I don't think they do. It's just they're employed. And this is beyond boredom. It's just called, they have figured out how to waste fucking time. All right? And see, I'm one of those unfortunate human beings that turned up onto this planet who, see, I'm the builder. And I'll sit back and I'll watch people sit around, point the finger and talk shit for a period. But I'm not saying when I get intolerant or when I get frustrated, but when enough's enough, I'll just be like, look, get out of the way and just fix it. So, like, I get that. And here it is. Isn't it funny that as we have the conversation, it comes to the surface? I am fully aware that people must learn. Fully aware of that. What I'm a bit concerned about, look, this unfortunately is what happens too often. I'm just going to put something here quickly. With the bushfires the other year, I was driving along the road and I could see these sirens and the lights, and I was like, well, I better pull up here, you know, common courtesy. It was a fiery racing past me to pull up and go and take a shit. But they wanted to have the big siren, you know, they wanted to feel special. Now, I'm not saying, again, here it is. We live in a country where they're saying that the government is in control and don't you dare get involved. And so if there's an accident, that is for fireys, that is for police, that is for SES. And if you've got first aid, unless you're qualified or unless you're a part of these organisations, like, don't get involved. So I'm like in, I say, like a league of your own. I'll do whatever the hell I want because unfortunately I've got too much skill not to. And the long and short is, it's like I could have been a really good soldier. That's what I was like, and with that, not a soldier, but I ended up looking after a man who was the general of, you know, the Australian Army. It's interesting, isn't it? So, not a soldier, but I could have done that. So my Secret Service is I'm looking after, you know, a man of war's land. He's dead now. Anyway, so I've got the skills and the ability and the gifts to, I could have been a soldier, didn't believe in it. Could have been a fiery, could have been many things. Don't believe in government. And why don't I believe in government? Look, forget about this pandemic. There's too many other things that will have to be dealt with at some point. One being drinking water. And the issue that I've got is they're called guidelines. So when you're a tradie, you've got these things called standards. You've got the ISO, the International Standards of Operation, but then you've also got like national standards. And as a tradie, your license and your skills require you to function within the standards of the trade that you're working within. And when you work within the parameters that are stated by the standards, the point to it is, it's about law. So you function within the standards, you've got the tolerances right, you sign your work off. If you stuff up, you can provide a warranty. Literally everything comes down to warranty, you know. So the government being public, so the private sector, if you do something, works within standards, and the standards have guidelines, and within the guidelines, the standards have tolerances, and within the tolerances, as a tradesperson, you're signing off saying that I've done this within the tolerance, and if the work fails, if it's within those tolerances, we can deal with this matter appropriately and get it sorted quick smart. But if it's outside of it, well, you could be taken to court, or you go back and get the job done right. You don't want to rip them off, you know. But the problem with government is they work within guidelines, not tolerances. And all you've got to do is get a job. And then once you've got the job, you could be, I don't want to even get into water. That's why I don't drink town water anywhere. But you could be that far out of the tolerances, but it doesn't matter because you're working within guidelines, not tolerances. And I don't want to be belittling towards the average person. I do not want to be, and you know, sheeple. I don't want to be any of that stuff there. But we've got to be pretty clear about it. You know, dole bludgers work harder for their money than most people that work for council or government. And that's just to get their dole check. There are far too many people that, you know, we're talking about this entire system. I can't wait for the system to collapse, and I can't wait for people like these engineers, these 6 engineers that turned up to sit around, point the finger and talk shit whilst eating donuts and drinking coffee while they go out of work, because their hour was probably worth $1,000 at a time. And that's just one example of people that sit around, point the finger and talk shit. So over a 15-year period in that one job there, that would have equated to $40,000 or $50,000 in doing nothing, just to come up with stupid ideas that were never going to come to fruition because of, I'm going to say, feasibility studies and whatnot, to ensure that the job's done right, so that, like, you know, it gets signed off and you get it done. But there's a lot of, has red tape ruined this country? Look, it's beyond red tape. I saw this in the UK, England, just like everywhere else. It needs to collapse. This world needs to collapse. It's condemned. That's why Jesus is coming. Like, it's just done, you know, unfortunately. This system has to collapse. And the bludgers that have taken the piss out of their employment through the system's way of getting its money to pay for, you know, budgets and whatnot, I think that's why the private sector is a really good thing, because at least it formulates some competition so that complacency doesn't kick in. Council is the biggest disgrace known to mankind. Who needs 6 people to sit around and watch a hole get shoveled? And here's one for you. You want to know the most powerful person in a council and how temperamental they are? I saw this one day. It's not the engineers. It's not the general manager. It's the chief superintendent. Now, if you've noticed something about superintendents, they're all fat, they all sit around, they all point the finger, and they all talk shit. They're bullshit artists. But the problem is, as well, too much roast meals and too much gravy and too much red wine. They're fat and full of shit, right? And the problem with, and I'm not being rude here, it just is what it is. Unfortunately, as direct or indirect as you may think this is, like, the ramifications that this will have, I have personally observed on one too many occasions one of these fat chief superintendents not approve something because they felt sick about over what they ate the night before. They are driven by their guts, and they don't make sound decisions based upon fact. They're not emotionally detached from their work. They're not leaders. They're not looking for the grand vision of where things are heading. They're not visionaries. They are fat, useless human beings that got into their position because they've got a bad attitude. They protect their position horribly by running everyone else into the ground because of the dog eat dog world that sits within the environment. But then what you have a look at is, and it really is coming into the fore at the moment, these bodies, these disgusting bodies that sit within each state, within each country, each nation, these bodies, these parasites, is called the state government. And you're starting in Australia, for example, in New South Wales, especially since the pandemic happened. Why do I not trust government about anything at all, whatever period? Because I've seen them treat water where they were doing doses 11 times beyond the standards. But because they were guidelines, it didn't matter. And I got aggressively intimidated because I surfaced this matter because they wanted to sweep it under the rug to say nothing to see here, because there's a much bigger issue to deal with, because it's not just the place where I found this issue has the problem. It's a scale-wide matter, and it's like they're almost doing it deliberately. I'd hate to say it, but it's neither here nor there, because this is the world we live in. Why it's condemned. For every $1 billion in wages being paid out to government workers, I reckon 90% of that was gone into wasted time. They are stealing the very air we breathe. I don't want to say it. I don't want to go. I'm not saying worthless eaters. I don't want to say that, but they are not earning their right to get their meals. They have not earned their place in society to have a say, let alone act the way they do within the positions that they have. And too often, that's why I'm glad that I've got my kingdom to look after, and I've pissed all over this territory, because no one's going to enter it. And even if you did, it doesn't bother me. You're not going to beat me at my profession. All right? Too often, I have fixed things that 6 people couldn't see. And too often, I fix it very quickly with common sense, pragmatic approaches where they could have looked at it 5, 6, 7, 8 years straight and not seen it once. They don't have vision, and they don't have discipline. They're yes people. They don't know how to think for themselves. They don't have common sense. They're not practical thinkers. And this is a big issue in this world, because it's all about, oh, I've got to get myself a job, 9 to 5, the whole system way of thinking, work for 40 years, then retire, and you found happy, the illusion of the facade of the Matrix. People sitting around pointing the finger, talking shit. See, a big part of mine is I had some really big experiences quite early on in my 20s. And unfortunately, 99% of the planet would not even smell the farts of the food that was eaten, of the experiences that were had. And since then, and that's not me being rude, it's just the experiences that I've had. My life since 24, 25, the 10 years till 35, fucking hated it. Because I think I was sent here to go through what others didn't need to go through. I was like the sacrificial lamb, so that others wouldn't go through it after me. I took the blow, and it was character building, to say the least. I'm not saying demoralizing. It just been through hell and back. Not once, not twice, on many occasions. Um, and especially since after about 25, like when you've had an experience and it's like you're humble, and it's like people, and obviously they had demons, and their demons were thinking, well, I better act smug and look down my nose towards this person. And like, I don't find, I hate this world. We're in this world, but not of it. I don't dress up to fit into this world. I just dress up in functional clothing in order to be able to get my work done in a practical manner. And I might buy decent quality things here or there, but I don't dress up. And if I got $1 for every person that's looked down their nose at me, I'd be pretty damn rich. And see, the problem I've got, and the reason, and they know this as well, is when they do it, they also know that it's stupid that they've done it because been there, done that. And I've really had to just, I mean, how's someone going to feel right when they want to, like, I remember like being at a pub. Someone came up to me at a pub. This is like when mid 20s, and they were like trying to belittle my perception of the world, saying that I knew nothing, that they knew everything. And I was like, how would they feel if I was to not just cut their life apart, but also cut their character apart, pull into their deep psychological issues, and then rip their entire life apart, give them every reason in the world to start drinking bleach, only to then show them what experiences I had had, just to be able to make them feel that small that they would want to cease existing itself. What value does that have in allowing that person to make their own decisions? So a major issue I've had to deal with for a very bloody long time is allowing whoever wants to do it to look down their nose. Or unfortunately, the ramifications are been there, done that. And my big one is just about privileges and rights. And when I say that the privileges are being abused at the point where they believe that things are right, that's when you just move on and go to the next step. I never thought, I mean, no one, I don't know if God kept my value away from sheep and awaited those who needed to see my value to show it for what it is. But I just can't believe that it took me to speak to international people and they saw it immediately and were like, right, get to work. Jesus says it, like, no man, no woman has any honor within their hometown, within their home country. You know? I would never want to live the life that I've lived again. These last, like the last 2 years, absolutely. They've been fantastic, but what it took to get there, just it's an embarrassment. You know? So whatever happens with planet Earth from here on out, however the Lord chooses to judge it, however it all happens, it is what it is. The big issue I've got is it's those that sit around, point the finger, and talk shit. The positions they hold, the time they waste, the money they consume, the food they eat, their approach to existence. But then at the same time, I don't know, is this the age old conversation of do we really need government? Now, I know that it's important to have a social services system because of disability and those who need help when they are sick or in need. Because all of us have been sick or all of us have been in need, and not everyone has the support to be able to get the help. And I would hate to live in America for that reason because you either make money or you starve. That's why America is full of homeless, because they don't have social support. But the problem you've got is countries like here in Australia, that social support network, it was a pit for parasites. And now what you've got is state government emblems, and what they are is these big crawling parasites looking to suck the life out of you through their law enforcement. We don't need to be going down that path, but just parasites. And there needs to be something put in place to be able to hold a standard to ensure that they do their job to a proper level so that we are getting the right bang for the buck, because they are wasting too much time, too much money, and they're not getting the job done efficiently. There is no expansion, there is no growth, there is no let's move forward. It's just the same old mediocre, ordinary, mundane bullshit year in, year out, day in, day out. Nothing changes except for those who have come here to cause some form of change purely because we don't want to be a part of this world anymore. Anyway. There has to be a shake-up, and it has to come, and it has to be to the deepest core of these guys that sit around, point the finger, and talk shit. Because this entitlement is ruining this opportunity that's supposed to be egalitarian for all involved, where just, again, am I saying that government was the sponge for narcissists? Maybe it was. Maybe government was Satan's way of creating a body to bring all of his satanic minions into one pit so he could feed them like it was a tit. Government is a cow to feed narcissists. And any poor empath that is in there will find themselves not in there for too long. There it is. I knew this was bringing it somewhere. That's all I can see that government is. A shit pit, which is a big cow with tits hanging off it that spews shit into the mouth of the narcissist that it feeds. And all these narcissists are parasites, and it's a big parasite that then wants to take money out of the pockets of the everyday person that's working for a living, where, isn't this why Trump is trying to drain the swamp? Anyway, there we go. Here's what it is. Those who sit around, point the finger, and talk shit, we're seeing the result of it right now. Stop watching the news. Do you really think you could take the word, the trust of anyone on the news? No, it's all satanic. Like, if you want to look into it for what it is, all this stuff that you want to call mythology and all the rest of it, no, it's just the underworld. That's it. And television is a place where it's a big ass shitting bad energy into your toilet, your head. And spiritually, you can actually observe the demons and the bad energy coming out of the screen to actually infiltrate you. This world is a condemned satanic cesspool. And it is hysteria that's driving it. But the dust will have to settle at some point. And when the Lord comes to bring judgment, may God have mercy on the soul of all who have it coming their way, because they will have earned it and deserve it. Anyway, have a good day. Bye for now. May God bless you. Jesus loves you. And may the Holy Spirit inspire you to become the best version, the most unforgettable version of yourself, so that you can do your part in becoming a way shower for your little part of the world.